Have you ever wondered if the pages of history are written long before we ever lived through them? What if someone centuries ago already saw what we're just beginning to experience? Well, one name that always seems to come up when we talk about the future, especially about war and global chaos, is Nostradamus, the French astrologer and physician whose cryptic writings have mystified generations for over 450 years. Now, whether you believe in prophecies or not, Nostradamus has become a figure of intrigue, someone whose warnings may hold more weight than we give them credit for. And what's really unsettling is how some of his predictions seem to have eerie parallels to our world today, particularly when it comes to the Middle East and the chilling possibility of World War III. But before we dive into his predictions, let's rewind for a moment. Who exactly was Nostradamus, and why are his writings still the topic of so much fascination? Born in 1503, Michel de Nostradamus, better known as Nostradamus, made his name as a physician, treating victims of the plague in France. But it wasn't just his medical skills that would leave a mark on history. His most lasting legacy came in the form of cryptic verses, or quatrains, published in his famous work Les Prophéties in 1555. Each quatrain is filled with symbolism, metaphors, and allegory, leading people to interpret and reinterpret them throughout the centuries. The eerie part. Many believe that some of his predictions have already come to pass. The rise of Napoleon, the horrors of World War II, even the assassination of JFK. His writings seem vague at first glance, but as history unfolds, they take on a chilling clarity. And now we arrive at the topic that has gripped people in recent decades: the Middle East and the ominous shadow of World War III. Let's start with one of Nostradamus' most famous quatrains. It reads,
"The Great War will start in the West, but the East will play a key role. Two great powers shall come together. With fire and blood shall the world be undone."
Now, what could he have meant by this? Some interpreters believe Nostradamus was foreseeing a conflict that begins in the West, perhaps even a Western superpower, but that ultimately spreads globally, with the East playing a critical role. Many argue that this could be referring to the tense geopolitical climate surrounding the Middle East, a region that has long been a powder keg of unrest, war, and global tensions. Consider the recent history of the Middle East: multiple wars, uprisings, revolutions, and the involvement of global superpowers like the US and Russia. The region has already been a battleground for proxy wars, with outside nations vying for control, influence, and resources. Some see this as Nostradamus' prophecy starting to unfold before our eyes. And then there's this unsettling quatrain.
"From the East the tyrant shall rise, with armies numbering great and bold. Against the western seas he'll march, his wrath like fire, his ambitions cold."
Some scholars and modern interpreters believe this could refer to a future leader in the Middle East, Russia, or Asia, a tyrant whose ambitions could spark a massive conflict. We've seen the rise and fall of powerful figures in this region, from Saddam Hussein to others whose actions have nearly ignited larger wars. Could Nostradamus have been predicting the rise of yet another key figure? Someone whose aggression could lead us into a global catastrophe? Take a look at the major conflicts that are happening as I'm talking to you right now.
Zelensky continues to urge NATO to intervene by shooting down Russian missiles and drones before they can reach Ukraine. However, Western allies are hesitant, fearing that direct involvement could escalate the conflict further. The new NATO chief, on his first visit to Kyiv, promised to stand by its ally.
It cannot be tolerated. We stand with Israel and we recognize her right to self-defense in the face of this aggression. Iran must stop these attacks, together with its proxies like Hezbollah.
In recent years, tensions in the Middle East have escalated to dangerous levels. Whether it's the ongoing Syrian civil war, the rise of ISIS, or the deep-seated hostility between Iran and Israel. Each of these conflicts, while contained, has the potential to spill over into something much larger, dragging in superpowers like the United States, Russia, and China, all of whom have vested interests in the region. Nostradamus' prophecies speak of alliances being formed and enemies uniting in unlikely ways. We've already seen strange alliances form in the region, nations that were once enemies now working together due to shifting political and economic landscapes. Could this be part of the buildup to a global conflict? But it's not just the Middle East that Nostradamus seemed to focus on. There's a recurring theme in his writings about a great war that will ravage the world. One of the most chilling quatrains reads,
The third great war will begin when the city burns, blood and ruin from the north to the south. Fire from the heavens will fall, and the world will tremble in fear.
Many have linked this to the idea of World War III, a conflict that could engulf the entire world, sparked by a single catastrophic event. Some have speculated that this burning city could be a major capital in the Middle East, perhaps the site of a terrorist attack or a military strike that triggers a chain reaction of violence and chaos. Imagine a scenario where a single act of aggression spirals into global warfare, with nations drawn in by alliances and age-old rivalries. There's another chilling element in his predictions, the idea of modern weaponry. Nostradamus wrote in terms his contemporaries could understand, but some of his descriptions eerily resemble the devastation caused by nuclear weapons or advanced military technology. He speaks of fire raining from the skies and great plagues being unleashed, which could be interpreted as nuclear fallout or biological warfare. Could Nostradamus have been warning us about the horrors of modern warfare? Could the fire from the heavens be a metaphor for missile strikes, or worse, nuclear bombs? We can only speculate, but what's truly unsettling is how some of Nostradamus' words, written centuries ago, seem to resonate so closely with the world we live in now. The rise of radical movements, the involvement of superpowers in proxy wars, the ever-present threat of nuclear weapons, and the fragile peace that seems to hang by a thread. Don't take my word for it. See for yourself.
Nuclear weapons, the power of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. But I got to know firsthand the power of that stuff, and I'll tell you what, we have to be totally prepared. When they asked him that question, the answer should have been, hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later. And that's what they should, if they're going to do it.
Мы сделаем все, чтобы обеспечить безопасные условия для проведения референдумов. Для того, чтобы люди могли выразить свою волю. И то решение о своем будущем, которое примет большинство жителей Донецкой и Луганской народных республик, Запорожской и Херсонской областей, мы поддержим. И при угрозе территориальной целостности нашей страны, для защиты России и нашего народа, мы, безусловно, используем все имеющиеся в нашем распоряжении средства. Это не блеф. А те, кто пытаются шантажировать нас ядерным оружием, должны знать, что роза ветров может развернуться и в их.
So where does this leave us? Are we on the brink of World War III, as some of Nostradamus' followers believe? Or are we simply seeing history repeat itself in cycles with no predetermined fate? One thing is certain, Nostradamus' prophecies, whether you believe in them or not, force us to confront uncomfortable questions about the future. Will the Middle East be the spark that ignites a global conflict? Will nations collide in a war unlike any we've ever seen before? As we sit here in the present, watching the news, seeing conflicts unfold and feeling the tension rise, it's hard not to wonder, was Nostradamus right? The truth is, we won't know until history writes itself. But one thing's for sure, his prophecies have left us with a sense of unease that lingers in the back of our minds. And perhaps, just perhaps, they serve as a warning, a reminder to tread carefully, to consider the paths we choose as a global society, and to remember that even the smallest spark can ignite a fire that could burn the world. For all our sakes, let's hope that Nostradamus was wrong. Thanks for watching. If you found this topic as fascinating and chilling as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Nostradamus's predictions hold any truth? Or is it all just a coincidence? I'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, stay curious and stay cautious.